The mystery of a cataclysmic strike in Gaza. With hundreds killed and a hospital destroyed, there is widespread outrage. But it's not clear who launched the rocket. Many, including Hamas and some regional governments, were quick to blame Israel.
We did not strike that hospital.
Israel denies any part in this, but says it has an idea who might be responsible. The horrific loss of life further intensifies an already desperate humanitarian situation in Gaza and adds new questions for everyone concerned. The CBC's senior international correspondent, Margaret Evans, is in Jerusalem with more on this. And Margaret, what are Israel's government and military officials saying about the strike?
Well, Ian, the Israeli Defense Forces have issued a statement denying that their warplanes were responsible for the strike. They're saying that their intelligence sources are indicating a failed rocket launch by militants belonging to the Islamic Jihad. That is a militant group backed by Iran, much smaller than Hamas, but the two groups sometimes do cooperate, and they both support the cause, a mutual cause, that is the destruction of the state of Israel.
So many countries, Margaret, in the region were quick to blame Israel. What do you think the reaction is going to be to Israel's explanation of what happened?
I certainly don't think people on the Palestinian street are going to believe it. And you've seen protests across the Middle East spreading like wildfire. I think that's partly because there's, the region has really been roiling with the relentless bombing of Gaza before this happened. Critics would say the indiscriminate bombing. So the tensions are already very high. And we've seen that summit planned for tomorrow for the U.S. President Joe Biden between Egypt, Jordan, the Palestinian president canceled. King Abdullah of Jordan has described what happened to the hospital as a massacre, and the Egyptians are actually calling for international intervention.
And speaking of protest, that certainly happened in the West Bank today. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, there were big protests tonight, a lot of stone throwing, a lot of anger on the streets, but directed not only towards Israel, but towards the Palestinian president, Mahmoud Abbas, who canceled his date tomorrow with President Biden to return. The anger towards President Abbas comes because many people find him weak. They see him as a puppet of the Israeli government. It's an important shift to note because it could see support shifting more than it already is in the West Bank towards Hamas, which would create a new wrinkle here. Those protests tonight in Ramallah were actually broken up with tear gas, and I expect that we're going to see more in the days to come.
And in a few hours, Margaret, President Biden arrives.
That's right, Ian. And, even before this happened, people were describing this visit as a real gamble for Biden because, as you know, the Americans, the United States, are seen by many in the Middle East as Israel's greatest ally, something that the United States prides itself on. But it's led many countries over the decades to accuse the United States of favoring Israel at the expense, in particular, of the Palestinians. It will increase the voices saying that the United States is not the country to act as an honest broker in this conflict, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in particular.
Senior international correspondent Margaret Evans reporting again tonight from Jerusalem. So will we find out definitively who fired the missile that hit the hospital? Once again tonight, let's bring in Scott Clancy, a retired Major General in the Canadian Armed Forces and a former Director of Operations with NORAD. From a military perspective, what's the likelihood of us finding out who shot that missile?
Well, Ian, I think that the Israeli Defense Forces have stated already that they have a lot of data to be able to show in very short order. They seem to have drone footage. I think they have an intercepted cell phone conversation that's Hamas leadership stating that they've got a rocket that has fallen short. And I think they have some radar footage and data that indicates that a volley of rockets was launched at the same time as that hit on the hospital occurred. Now, that's the Israeli Defense Forces that have that. You also have the Americans close by. They have significant assets with 2 carrier strike groups in the Med, but it really depends on what the Americans had airborne in and around at that time, what Israel was allowing the Americans to be overhead with, and whether or not, there's satellite imagery that might be able to indicate that as well. But I think we're going to get some very significant proof from the Israeli side that it was a rocket gone astray from a volley of Hamas rockets.
Right, but the problem, as you identify, is Israel is one of the sides in this very contentious war that's going on. In terms of the Americans, and I know you have to tread carefully because you don't want to betray any secrets you know from your involvement with NORAD, but from an outsider's perspective, I would have thought the Americans would have satellite surveillance, especially because their eyes are fixed on what's going on in Israel, where they would be able to definitively say, yes, we can track from a satellite where missiles have been sent and what happened to those missiles. I assume it's not as clear as that.
It isn't as clear as that, Ian. So yeah, I will be careful. However, worldwide, the Americans and Canadians through NORAD monitor all missile launches around the globe. But those missiles are focused on very large missiles, intercontinental ballistic missiles, although they are tuned to be able to pick up smaller things. And then locally, in and around areas, theaters of operations like what the IDF has with the Iron Dome, you have more specific either satellite systems and radar systems that will pick up the launch and then to follow the trajectory. The reality is the Americans don't have the ability to follow the trajectory of those rockets once they leave that launch. Even the most precise systems would have to be very localized, the ones that the Israelis have. Therefore, it's possible that the carrier strike group or maybe some of its airborne assets may have seen that, or if the Americans had tuned their satellites in to that region very specifically, then they might have. And here's the next thing, is there's a classification issue, is that by releasing some of that data, the Americans might tip their hat as to the capabilities of their satellite and airborne systems to other adversaries, and they might not be willing to do that either.
Scott Clancy, really nice having your insight. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Scott Clancy, retired Major General in the Canadian Armed Forces. Coming up, the hospital bombing is making matters even more difficult in Gaza, where millions are running out of essential supplies.
It is extremely critical that the siege is lifted.
Why humanitarian aid isn't making it in. We'll break that down next. Human suffering escalates in southern Gaza after a new airstrike.
It's a really scary thing for me.
As Egypt stays firmly closed to desperate foreign nationals,
We have to get in humanitarian supplies.
the food and medicine that could help so many is stuck just across the border. The cries from a chorus of countries grow louder each day, imploring Egypt to open the Rafah border crossing. Ellen Morrow breaks down why that country hasn't budged so far.
Every day, hundreds gather at the Rafah border crossing, desperate to get out of Gaza.
Every place I go run away, and I just find bombs and I find dead people. And like maybe one day I'll end up like them, but it's a really scary thing for me.
Rafah could be a lifeline, the only lifeline, but the border between Egypt and southern Gaza has remained closed. All the while, humanitarian aid is piling up on the Egyptian side, out of reach for those struggling to live without it.
It is extremely critical that the siege is lifted of the Gaza Strip. It is a matter of life and death for 2 million people.
Egypt is in charge of Rafah, tightly restricting the crossing since 2007, when Hamas took power in Gaza, keeping it shut during past Israeli bombardments.
The problem with the Rafah border crossing is that it's always been a very contentious issue. There are multi-pronged problems here with opening the border.
Egypt, mired in economic crisis, fears a mass exodus of refugees that it would struggle to host in its volatile Sinai Peninsula.
You need to set up camps, and those camps have to be provided with water, with sanitation, with healthcare. Those who are left with the more pressing problem of dealing with the refugee population are the governments of the country hosting the refugees.
There's also concern among Arab leaders that if Palestinians leave Gaza, they'll never be able to go back, endangering hopes of Palestinian statehood. The Palestinian cause is the main cause for the Arabs, says Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. It's important that its people remain steadfast and present on their land. So many Palestinians, despite the devastation, have said the same, their history marked by forced displacement. Where shall I go? Leave my country, my home, says this woman in the ruins of her house. I'm staying here until I die. But Egypt is under intense international pressure. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken was in Cairo over the weekend, trying to implore al-Sisi.
It's going to be a question of other external mediators being able to offer something so tangible and so worth it that it will change the cost-benefit analysis of the Egyptian government.
For now, Egypt says only foreign nationals will be able to get out, and only when and if Israel allows aid to go in. The UN says that means stopping this. Repeated Israeli airstrikes near the Rafah crossing and now in the nearby town, where evacuees from the north are sheltering, told by Israel to go south for their own safety. They didn't warn us, this man says. They killed women and children.
Men in general right now are fasting. They don't eat, they don't have food. They don't have water so that they can ensure there is enough rations for the elderly, for the women, for the kids.
Mansour Schumann, a Canadian, tried to get his family out through Rafah days ago, but a deal for foreign nationals to be able to cross abruptly fell through.
There was no one to open the gates. We're not sure exactly what's happening. I don't know where to go. We don't know where to go. It's all dangerous.
The fate of so many, all with little hope for escape or reprieve as long as this border remains shut.
Well, for some analysis, we're joined now by Adrienne, a professor of Middle East politics at Dartmouth College and a former Egyptian diplomat. Professor, the Rafah crossing between Gaza and Egypt still closed for people and humanitarian aid despite the diplomatic efforts. How do you see things unfolding there in the coming days?
I think there are two different issues. Both are connected to the Rafah crossing. One is letting humanitarian assistance go into Gaza, and this is something the Egyptians and Palestinians, of course, are keen on achieving. Israel has so far been unwilling to let humanitarian assistance go in. That's one side of the story. The other side is letting Gazans who are so willing to flee to Egypt, to the Sinai. Some of them are third-party nationals, like Canadian Palestinians, American Palestinians, but the great majority are Palestinians from Gaza. And here the Egyptians are unwilling to let them cross into Sinai for both security, but mainly for political reason. Palestinians and Arabs in general have a collective memory that displacement of Palestinians, even during conflict, even though some would think it's temporary, ends up being permanent. And those who leave are never allowed back. That has been the case since 1948, and it weighs heavily on Palestinians until today. And definitely, Egypt doesn't want to be at least perceived as complicit in another displacement.
Like so much in this part of the world, that seems to be an intractable problem. But with this crisis growing in Gaza, with countries like the United States trying to use their influence to reach some sort of, resolution or maybe that's too strong a word, but do you see things changing at the border at all?
Well, things are more likely to change as far as foreign nationals, dual citizens are concerned. That's probably an easier bit. But for a larger picture, for the great majority of Palestinians in Gaza, it's hard to see how this can be, how a good solution could come out of that. Even if the United States gives guarantees to Egypt that those Palestinians are going to return, frankly, nobody can actually guarantee that they will return except Israel itself. And there is no trust between the Palestinians and Israel. So whatever the Israeli authorities say today is not going to be very convincing for them. Having said this, if what we see in Gaza continues, if there is indeed a ground invasion, then the number of casualties is going to climb up very quickly. And then the situation on the ground can change. If you have hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, women and children injured and so on, seeking refuge at the border, I don't see how Egypt can practically keep it shut for a very long time. But it's all a very fluid situation.
We have just a few seconds left, but in a few sentences, what about the other borders of Gaza?
Excellent question. I mean, logically, you would think Israel would also open its borders and allow civilians who are willing to flee to that border. But given Israel's insistence that this is a security risk and will not let Palestinians into its own territory, it also adds to the perception that this is a one-way displacement. It is pushing Palestinians out of Gaza into another country. And that doesn't help create any sense of trust between the parties.
Professor Fischer, thank you very much for speaking with us.
Thank you for having me.
Coming up, a little inspiration. A former firefighter overcomes the odds.
He said, "You'll probably never, ever walk again."
How his determination carried him to the finish line. That's next in our moment. One year ago, Paul Cook was confined to a wheelchair, unable to move, and told he would probably never walk again. But this picture was taken after he completed the Trapline Marathon 5K race. It's a story of determination, hard work, and friendship. Paul Cook's year-long journey to the finish line is our moment.
It all started one night, probably about 2 or 3 in the morning. I woke up with severe pain in my back. The doctor looked at me and he told me, "Hey, there's no way, best way of saying this, but he said, you'll probably never, ever walk again." So then I was transferred over to the Miller Center, which is for physical therapy and that. From there, they slowly progressed me where I was able to get up and move around a bit, but I still had no feelings, no body functions. So I got home in the end of July, and I told them at the fire hall I was going to do the Trapline Marathon 5K. So from going, not being able to walk, to doing the 5K in a year. I have to get this done. I just can't be confined to a wheelchair walker. The guys at the fire hall, they said, well, if he's going to do it, we're going to join him. I know they're there because they wanted to, not because they had to. But it's a very happy day, knowing that I was able to do it, and I've done it with friends.
So when he needed to start doing his rehab, he's in Happy Valley, Goose Bay. They don't have a rehab facility there. So he went to the Y, and he just kept working doggedly, and eventually was ready to start doing laps with a wheelchair, and then a walker, and then canes, and then, as you saw, 5 kilometers. Incredible. For all of us here at The National, thanks for being with us. You can watch anytime, anywhere on the free CBC News app and subscribe to The National's YouTube channel. I'm Hanomansing. Good night.